fight fans, welcome back to What's Culture Combat. I am Gareth here, as always, sat in my lovely office, studio, spare room thing. And we've got Adrian there. Adrian, where are you again? What is going on? Are we in this studio?
Back in the tattoo studio, converted into an MMA discussion hub.
I like it. It's very distinct. But right now we're here to talk to you about just the oddest thing known to man at this point, because UFC, as you know, Dana White and UFC 249, everything else, it's been in a constant state of flux over the last couple of weeks. We've not been too sure what's going to happen with this card going forward. We've had Khabib dropping out the fight, people being mooted for potential opponents for Tony. We didn't even know whether the actual card will come to fruition, whether we'd have an actual location for this fight. But we found out over the last night, I believe, that there is going to be a location. We're not too sure what that location is at this point. There's a full card that's just been announced that we're going to go into in a little bit of detail. And also there's plans for, well, there's no other way of saying this, there's plans for Fight Island. Yeah. So it's a bit of an odd one, but we'll go straight into, why not go straight into that, Fight Island. It's apparently going to become a thing because Dana White has pretty much planned out 2 months worth of weekly fights. That's what he's suggesting at this stage. He was talking to TMZ yesterday, and he said we're going to be pumping out fights every week. That was his quote. And he also said in terms of a hub, a place where the American fighters can go, where this UFC 249 card is going to be situated, that's pretty much going to be a hub for all the fighters in America that can travel domestically. So they can be safe, they can be tested, they can be in the best place possible to have these fights happen. And then in terms of international fighters, obviously Khabib probably is classed as an international fighter. He likes of Conor, all of our British fight, everyone who's not in America right now. He's got a plan. His plan is, he says, I'm also a day or two away from securing a private island. I have a private island that I've secured. We're getting the infrastructure put in now, so I'm going to start doing the international fights too with international fighters, because I won't be able to get international fighters, all of them, into the US. So I have a private island, and I'm going to start flying them into the, he likes saying private island, he said it a lot. And he says he's going to fly him in there, he's doing international fights from there, and we have our own planes and everything. So a lot of information to unpack there, Adrian. What are we thinking?
It's one of the craziest situations ever, but it is so typical of the sport of MMA. We just do things so much differently than everyone else. When everyone else has decided to sort of pack the ball up and go home for a short amount of time, Dana White is still he's such a hardcore businessman that he's found a way. The fact that he's managed to find a way to keep these fights on is just unreal at this current time. It just doesn't seem possible that the UFC are going to hold a landmark event in less than 2 weeks' time from now on a private island. I don't mean to sort of disparage him, because I'm happy the fights are going on, but this is supervillain stuff. This is really, you just can't imagine. You can't imagine someone telling you that the Premier League was going to take place, or the NFL was suddenly going to move their entire operation onto a private island. It sounds so much like out of every terrible kung fu movie I've ever watched.
You're right, exactly. You're right, and I believe just to clarify, I believe that the UFC 249 event, if I'm not mistaken, that may be taking place in America. I think that one is taking place in America with American-based fighters there. But I think going forward for international fights, like you said, the supervillain reality is about to happen. And with that, you've just tweaked something there for me, because obviously, like we're saying, MMA just do things differently. We march to the beat of our own drum. And I think, well, do you think going forward now, if this becomes a success and they manage to get these fighters, these international fighters, onto this private island and have these fights and have them happen successfully, air them to ESPN and the other broadcasters around the world, will that inspire other sporting organizations, other WWE, wrestling, everything, to start going by this same, do you know what I mean? Like to go this, There's only so many private islands, I understand this, but do you know what I mean? Trying to get these isolated places where they can put on the sporting events for TV deals and money and the rest of it. Do you think that's a possibility?
See, it comes down to a question of ethics. It comes down to whether we think that other businessmen would operate like Dana White in these circumstances, where they would actually, take this decision, which is, it's going to be a contentious decision, because ultimately this is the perfect time to put fights on. This is a perfect time to be a sporting event, because for the first time ever, the UFC is going to air unopposed. So there's nothing else, unless you're watching the Belarusian Football League, there's not really a whole lot of sport on right now.
Who doesn't, my friend? Who doesn't?
In these trying times. So what they can do now is they can really command a share of the market space, because ethically, I just can't see these corporations that have so many different varying interests coming together the way that UFC can, because Dana White has such a control over the UFC. He can make these decisions alone, whereas other big sporting franchises are going to struggle to get the unanimous agreement they need. Whereas Dana can sort of say, we're putting the fights on. These are our fighters, and they're going to do what we're telling them to do if they want, to get the paycheck. And I'm sure fighters do want to fight. They put the hard work in. But it's a strange situation. But if the UFC can capitalize on this, this is a huge opportunity to get a wealth of new fight fans in. Because if you've got nothing to do, no one wants to watch reruns for the rest of this situation. So it'd be great to see some live sport, and maybe maybe see one of these fights and you think, wow, this is a great sport. And if the UFC can consistently deliver that, in 8 weeks' time, we could have a whole new batch of hardcore fans who are now completely in love with the sport. And when everything goes back to normal, they might be the first people to go buy tickets. They might be buying pay-per-views on a week-by-week basis. So it's a huge opportunity.
Exactly, and I think Dana White, being ever the ever-present businessman that he is, I think he's seen it that way as well. And then he was constantly being questioned throughout this interview, and throughout other interviews as well. I saw an interview with Brett Okamoto, and I think he was saying that every time he was like, "Oh, where's the location for this UFC 249 going to be?" Dana just kept saying it's going to be on ESPN. That's where it's going to be. You don't need to know where the location is because fans aren't going to be there. So he's really pushing the fact that ESPN, go and watch it on ESPN. Fans around the world, watch it on ESPN. Like he's really marketing it as this potential for new fans. I really think, like, to lure people in. And he also mentioned, because obviously Joe Rogan, I think he mentioned on his podcast a couple of weeks back, that he would not be commentating on any of these fights going forward because he just didn't think it was ethically correct. But then Dana actually didn't call out, but he clarified. And he said they heard him writing on a podcast, so they start writing stories off the podcast that are full of S word. Rogan will be there. So he's saying that Rogan's going to be there commentating as well, which, again, for new fans coming in to watch the sport for the first time, being brought in by this odd situation, at least they're going to get the full Joe Rogan experience.
Yep.
Sorry, can resist. Can resist. So, right, that's Fight Island's happening. That's strange, surreal, mad in itself. But first and foremost, we've got a super card on the way now, which is, you've got to hold on to whatever you can in this current situation, whether you agree with it or not, whether you think the card should be going ahead or not. We've got it. So I think it's probably about time we broke down some of the bigger fights that have been announced on this card. So I've got the full list here. I've got some of the fights that, obviously, we just won't go into too much detail. We might be here forever. But we've got everything from Greg Hardy versus Jorgen De Castro. We've got Uriah Hall taking on Ronaldo Souza. Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. My jaw nearly dislodged when I saw that had popped up. Jeremy Stevens is taking on Calvin Kattar. We've got Vicente Luque taking on Nico Price. We've got Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas, number 2. That's the co-main event still. And then the top talking point of this entire event, Tony Ferguson will be in action. He will be fighting for an interim UFC lightweight title, and he will be doing so against Justin Gaethje. So take your pick here, Adrian. What do you want to jump into first?
So let's go straight from the top and work down. Mm-hmm. Tony Ferguson is the hero of the UFC. I hope that he is getting compensated for what he's doing right now, because he is putting everything on the line there's a reward, there's this new audience, we have all these different factors playing in, but Tony has a lot more to lose here than he does to gain. Justin Gaethje can come in here on 2 weeks' notice and do his best, and it's going to be an awesome fight. This is one of the best. This is a dream fight in the lightweight division. But the thing is, Tony is coming into this with a fight with Khabib on the horizon, a big money fight. That's guaranteed. If this fight was cancelled, you'd still think, despite the curse, that Tony and Khabib's probably going to happen. So Tony's putting that all on the line by fighting Justin Gaethje. And to make things even stranger and more typical of MMA, Tony Ferguson is fighting Justin Gaethje for the UFC interim lightweight title, having previously won the UFC interim lightweight title and never lost it. This is going to be the second. If he wins, it'll be the second time he's been the interim champion without never winning the actual belt. So it's crazy, but it's an incredible fight. Stylistically, you can't get much better.
Yeah, stylistically, it's a dream. Probably It's as good as second best as what we could have hoped for, really, instead of a Khabib fight. But yeah, what a weird world where he could end up wearing. He could end up the interim champ. It's absolute madness. But yeah, I think either fighter comes out of this. This isn't the kind of fight where it's going to be a 5-second knockout. I just can't see that happening. Either fighter is going to come out of this absolutely brutalized, battered, broken. They're going to be wearing the scars of it. So whatever happens, the turnaround for either fighter, whoever wins this, you've got to think whoever wins this then goes on to challenge Khabib, obviously with the interim title, and try to make that an undisputed match. But whoever wins this fight will be physically battered from it. So it's just there's so much risk, but the rewards are insane, like you said, for that fight. So I've been on the fence for a while with that one. I wasn't too sure. I was more in the camp of okay, let's just wait. Let's just give it like. We want Tony Khabib, so let's just wait until we can get that. Now we've got this. Now it's on the table. I'm a massive hypocrite because I want this fight. I want to see it happen, and I can't wait. And also we've got Jessica Andrade taking on Rose Namajunas. That looks set to be an awesome fight. You've got to think that this potentially could then set up. Whoever wins this could then be the number one contender for Zhang Weili, depending on if she has that rematch against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which I would really like to see. So I don't know. That to me that sounds like another epic fight. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a great fight. The thing is with Rose Namajunas is, and she said it herself. There's a lot of psychological stuff that goes on with her with fighting. For some people, this is just they can just go into it without even thinking about it. Whereas Rose has said herself that there's a lot that plays into it, and she's always mindful about when her last fight might be. She's not one of those people who says I'm going to fight until I'm 50. She's very aware that she's going to have the fights she's going to have and build the legacy. She's already built an impressive legacy. Ultimate Fighter finalist, UFC strawweight champion, defeated Joanna Jędrzejczyk twice. But the first fight of Andrade was a weird fight because I thought Rose looked great until the finish, but the finish was so violent. To get back in the cage with someone who's finished you in such violent circumstances, that's got to be a difficult thing to do. I mean, I can't even imagine what's going to be going through her head. But it's a great stylistic matchup, and like you say, it really sets up a number one contender fight from the end.
Exactly, and it's hilarious that the prize for this absolute brutal war, whoever gets to do this, is to take on either Zhang Weili or Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So have fun with that. The last one I really want to go into on this card, because we could literally spend 40 minutes going through this card, but I really want to talk about Francis Ngannou taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik, because that was one of the first big casualties where it really hit me in the gut when this entire situation gets off. I was like, no, I really wanted this fight. And thankfully we are now getting it. And this, you have to think, and the heavyweight division is such a strange division right now. Obviously, you've got right at the top of that card, that division, you've got the Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier fight. Is it not going to happen? Is it? We don't even know. At this point, Stipe Miocic just seems to be putting down any question on the fight. Daniel seems quite open for it, but he's openly said, if I don't get that fight, I'm out. So there's all this drama at the top of the card. Top of the weight class. A lot of words coming out of my mouth right now. But really, you've got to think that between these two, whoever wins this fight, they've surely got to be next in contention for a title shot going forward, because they're just monsters. Look at them.
Yeah, these guys are absolute beasts. I mean, Rozenstruik was a lot of people's the breakout fighter of the year last year. Relatively, came out of nowhere, ends the year defeating Alistair Overeem in dramatic fashion. The thing with this fight that makes it so intriguing is it's actually ideal on this card because this fight didn't need 5 rounds. With the way that we've seen both these guys, we don't need to see them fight for 25 minutes. This fight will most likely be, and I say that most likely because we could always have an Ngannou versus Black Beast again, fingers crossed. But in all likelihood, we're going to get 5 minutes of war between these two guys. These are two of the biggest hitters the UFC heavyweight division has ever known. And we're just going to see them go at each other. And at the moment, it looks like this is going to be placed down the card and might be the ESPN main event. So what it does is it allows a fight like this to get fans. If we're going to try and bring fans in by being the only sport on TV, there's no better way to do it than showing off two absolute monsters. People have always loved heavyweights. Back Muhammad Ali, Hulk Hogan, big guys draw money. It doesn't matter what sport it's in. People want to see big guys go at it. And Francis Ngannou and Jairzinho Rozenstruik are two of the biggest guys in the sport, and they both come with incredible power. So it's an awesome fight.
It really is, and like you said, the heavyweights going at it is one thing, but heavyweight MMA stars like these two who can throw and kick, and if this doesn't get you interested and make you an MMA fan, nothing will. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been our breakdown of a few of the fights on this this announced UFC 249 lineup. Again, this card is very much subject to change, as it has been for the last how many weeks. So it could still change yet. We could see, I don't know, Conor McGregor pop up at some point, Kobe Covington. We just don't. We don't know. Anything could happen. And yeah, also let us know what your thoughts and feelings are on Fight Island, coming to an island near you, maybe. It's, very strange time to be an MMA fan right now, but at least there's something to hold on to, I guess, going forward. Bearing in mind that we're hoping that if all this goes ahead, this card, this island, everything else, that everyone involved is safe, is healthy, and being tested and everything else. And just, the health and safety of everyone involved is what's most important above anything else. But looks like we're going to get some fights in the future that we'll get to talk about as well, which is awesome, because then you get to see our lovely faces a little bit more. Where can they find you on Twitter, Adrian?
They can find me at ADBish on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes, and you can find me at gmorgan04 on Twitter. You can find us at WhatCulture Combat on Twitter. And obviously, don't forget to like, share, click on that subscribe button, and ring the bell for all things WhatCulture Combat. We will see you very, very soon, but please keep yourself safe in the meantime.